Houthis rebels are believed to be behind the attacks on ships in the Red Sea. The ships are now being diverted past the Cape. Experts say a United States-led operation trying to stop the rebels is likely to fail. It is reported that commercial and military ships linked to Israel are the primary targets. The rebel fighters have vowed not to stop with the attacks until Israel ends its onslaught on Gaza. Joining us is Professor Francois, research coordinator at Sigla with the Stellenbosch University. Prof, good to have you. Thank you very much for coming on this afternoon. Why are shipping firms avoiding the Red Sea, and why are maritime authorities and shipping ministries seemingly helpless around the situation?
Hi, good afternoon, and to your listeners. The first one is that the shipping industry is very concerned about this, because you must remember this is about risk avoidance, and they are doing it in several ways. The one is to reroute container vessels in particular, followed by other vessels that carry energy products, etc., south around the Cape to avoid the Red Sea, particularly the entrances and the part that runs close to Yemen. The second part is, of course, to hold ships on station, and that hopefully things will settle, but you can only do that for a certain period of time. And then, of course, you've got the naval task force that's assembling in order to make sure that they can provide safe passage, if not escort duties, to create a type of a safe space around the ships that are devoid of weapons such as missiles, such as drones, and even seaborne drones on the surface of the ocean that gets directed at shipping, with the idea that any shipping connected to Israel that's passing through are legitimate targets.
Yeah, relationship between the Houthi militants and East or Palestine, shall I say, Islamic group Hamas. How would you describe that relationship?
We must understand that this is a solidarity action that we are seeing, and that the narrative around it is about putting pressure on the international society and on Israel to normalize what is going on in Gaza, and that the fighting should stop, and that medical supplies, emergency supplies, food and water, and that kind of support should now freely flow into Gaza. And that the stance of the Houthis, until that materializes, they will keep on threatening the shipping that runs from the north, from the Suez Canal south, as well as from the Indian Ocean through the Gulf of Aden and down then past Yemen to the north to Europe and countries on that side. We must also keep in mind that a lot of shipping runs from the Mediterranean down that route that runs to Southeast Asia, to South Asia, and to the Far East, because those are where the economic hubs of the world are emerging.
So if we look at the companies that are affected, which industries are likely going to feel the pinch, especially here in South Africa and maybe even elsewhere? CCMA, Euronerv, Evergreen, Frontline, Graham Car Carriers, Hapag-Lloyd, HMM, Maersk, MSC, Ocean Network Express. I mean, that kind of list. What does it tell you in terms of industries that are going to be impacted?
To a large extent, what we are seeing at the moment is that the container shipping, those are the lines and the vessels that are being rerouted. Those are vessels that normally run on very tight time schedules, about delivery as well as about offloading, picking up new cargo, new containers, and then also the importance of shifting around empty containers to ports where they have to be offloaded. The companies that are looking very closely at whether they should do this are the companies that carry bulk and particularly your energy products, and some of them have started rerouting vessels. There's a margin in which they can sit and wait and see whether or how soon the naval task force that's assembling, they start acting to make the route more secure. In the meantime, so many of these countries are also taking on board and calling for armed contingents, private security, maritime security, armed contingents, because these vessels also have to now traverse through waters where they can be attacked and can be hijacked by criminal syndicates. So it's a type of a knock-on effect that now stretches from being attacked by missiles, drones, flying drones, or even drone boats, to being attacked by criminal syndicates, because you have to loiter in certain areas and you have to pass through certain areas that you probably could avoid previously. So it's a combination of how shipping companies type of accurately judge the risk and what they can do about it. Just an example, that you can have container ships that reroute around the Cape Sea route, another 10 to 14 days. They do their business in countries further north, and hopefully by then the situation is settled so that they can return back to the Indian Ocean and Asia via the Suez Canal and then down south through the Red Sea. Whether this whole matter has been settled or whether you've got a greater coalition of countries that say you cannot hold international trade hostage, because we must remember that the global economy turns on maritime trade.
Yeah.
That's the way it is. If you interfere with maritime trade, you start disrupting the global economy's functioning.
As the crisis escalates, others are predicting that the oil price is also likely to rise.
Okay. The oil price did spike a little bit. A second part around this is that we must remember that oil is almost constantly subjected to risk and uncertainty. Another matter being that this is not as if the Houthis from Yemen have suddenly now decided to interfere with shipping. This is a matter that's been going on for quite some time, perhaps not at the level how we are seeing this. And then another matter that we must keep in mind is that the oil business is also type of judging and adjusting itself to this uncertainty that you can reroute. And then another matter that comes up is, of course, it is not as if all oil shipping is being targeted or could be targeted. Non-Western shipping conveying oil and other energy products have been sailing through the Bab el-Mandeb, through the Red Sea, up north, to a certain extent. Because we must remember that we are talking about economic dynamics, and this is being upset by political dynamics about who sets up the coalition in order to make sure the vessels are safe. Where do they stand? If it's the United States, there are other disruptions. If it's not the United States, maybe things go easier. Can they get a political settlement to tone down what is happening in Gaza that would type of relieve the pressure that's now being applied to shipping from Yemen and the Houthi movement? So these dynamics are playing out, and your shipping companies are keeping a close eye on it, because we must remember they don't care who heads up and leads a naval escort or a naval task force. They just want stability for their vessels to sail and to deliver their cargo.
Houthis, are they, do they have an appetite as opposed to be the enemies of the United States? Do they want to see themselves crossing that line where they are becoming unpleasant as rulers of northern Yemen?
Okay, with the Houthis, we must remember that they are also playing for a political pavilion. Secondly, the Houthis don't want to upset everything, because they're also in a position where they're starting to see the utility of the peace with a Saudi-led coalition that wants to end this. Furthermore, the United States does not really want to do landward attacks and in that manner further upset negotiations. Then the Houthis did fire missiles towards shipping, but they have not hit any American ships. So this is maybe also a little bit of a posturing. We hold the sword that will disrupt shipping, and the Americans, we will make sure you don't reach the shipping, but we won't attack each other.
Prof, appreciate your time. Thank you very much for your intervention there this afternoon. That is Prof. Vreÿ there helping us understand what is happening in that area with the shipping in the Red Sea.